Hey everybody, my name is Alyssa Gerwig, or Pigment AAA, and I've been getting requests left and right to make a tutorial on how I paint something like this, or something like that, or this guy, whatever, I don't know. Just painting. That's actually a really creepy face. Okay, so, but the thing is, nobody is giving me specifics on what to make a tutorial on, just how I draw or paint, and that's kind of a tall order because so much goes into a single painting, and it's practically impossible to make that all into one video. Everything from value to lighting to shading to form, expressions, even, you know, color, everything. And I would be happy to make tutorials on those, but being as everybody's just asking on how I draw, which is totally just crazy, this is just going to be a very general, pretty basic tutorial on little key points that I do in painting that can help other people out. So nothing super specific or in-depth. So, first things first, this is Elements 11. Think of it as, I don't know, it's like a smaller version of Photoshop CC or CS5 or 6. Think of it as like Photoshop is like the name brand food that everybody loves, and then Elements is like the off brand that like nobody touches, but it's cheaper, so people buy it anyways. Like, I don't know. So Photoshop Elements 11 doesn't have a lot of the tools and luxuries and brushes and everything that, say, Photoshop or Paint Tool Sci have. Like, I don't even, for example, I don't have a water tool that a lot of people use to blend and mix colors and stuff. I don't have that, so I have to do it all manually. And I don't have all the fancy settings. I have some settings, but not all. So, first things first, I use a Wacom Intuos 5 tablet, which kind of looks like this, I guess, I don't know. And it's really amazing, and I love it so much. And, you know, it's a pen or whatever. And it has pressure sensitivity. Like, there's no way I could do this with a mouse. And the only reason why I say that is because some people have asked me. So I use a Wacom Intuos 5 tablet, and obviously Elements to do my work. So for the entire picture, all of my work, such as this one, or this one, or, you know, just anything on my videos, I only use all of 2 brushes. I use this brush, which is called the Soft Oil Pastel brush, and it doesn't have any pressure sensitivity. So what I do is I go into my tablet settings, and I turn on opacity, and that makes it sensitive to pressure, and it ultimately makes it into an airbrush that's textured, and it's really nice. So I use this, whoa, excuse me. So I use that for my textured brush, and then as for the round brush that I use, it's just your average default brush. That's it. But it's not just that. It's instead of size, it's on opacity, so it's an airbrush again. And it's set to spacing 1% or 0%, depending on your program, and hardness to 0. So instead, it's this big fuzzy ball. So these are the only 2 brushes that I use for all of my paintings, like all of them. And they're complete opposites, but they totally work hand in hand together super nicely. It's super awesome. So those are the 2 brushes I use. Also, the reason why I just want to make a point of this, the reason why I put the spacing at 1% is because each brush is made up of just one image that's repeated. And so you can see the circles, which is the image of that brush. And so the spacing makes there's no spacing in between each image. And so it's nice and smooth. And less hardness equals more blurriness, so it's great for shading and stuff like that, and lighting and glowy things, and yeah. So for the process of how I draw, I always start with a white background, And as soon as I explain all the like steps that I tell you the order that I go in, you'll probably recognize that I follow the same pattern with all of my pictures when you watch my videos. So yeah, white background, no matter what the color of the piece is. And I'm just gonna draw a sketch. And what better to sketch a tutorial for it than a cute little tiny Toriel thing? I don't know. And let's see how it turns out, because I've only drawn her like in doodles, and that looks bad. Alright. But either way, so. Alright, so now that I got the sketch done for Toriel, I actually changed it from blue to like a brown because I want the color to more consist of yellow for the main color palette of the picture. And I always use the color of the sketch that fits the color of the palette, such as, oh, I don't have my layers on this one, but Mettaton, his sketch was like a dark pink. This sketch it's blue, like what you can see right here when I show it. It's a dark blue, and then Muffet's sketch is purple. So because when I paint over the sketch, I don't get rid of the sketch. I kind of use it as a skeleton more than just a guideline, like what most people do it. So I like to keep the sketch, and because I do, I make it the same, around the same color palette so I want. And so onto the background, before I do any coloring of any kind, I put a flat color background of whatever I want it to be. And the reason why I do this is because the color of the background essentially makes or determines the whole atmosphere or color palette for the whole picture. And because color influences color, whether it's a light source or not, there's going to be some kind of impact that color affects on other colors. Such as, for example, Mettaton is gray, black, and pink, right? And the gray parts of him, such as his arm or his face, look gray. But obviously it's very influenced by the pink that's around him. So when you click on it, and you can probably see whether it's actually a very just pale pink. But because it's so pale in comparison to the vibrance of this pink, it comes off as gray, which is the correct color for Mettaton, even though I'm using just a pale pink for his skin, which is obviously not gray. So because pink is the color palette of this picture, which is essentially determined because of the background, it affects the color of his quote-unquote skin that is gray and black, where you get the highlights and everything like that. Or say like with Sans, the background is a dark blue. So instead of being bright white and everything, it's dark, so even though Sans is white, it's actually, again, a very pale blue for his skeleton. Or how Muffet's super influenced by purple, especially the red in this. So I'm just going to add just some basic, I don't know, like pattern or something to the background, because that helps me get like lighting down. And essentially the lighting, I'm gonna make it come from this direction and kind of over here, like say if you put your hand in front of the screen about 2-3 inches away from it, from this point, that's probably where the lighting is going to be, but I'll figure that out when I get there. But yeah, so lighting's going to come from that direction. And you don't need to see the source of the light in order to have a light source, just so you know. So don't worry about making a source for light every time, because if you make it a point where the light comes from somewhere, it'll be evident where the light is coming from the picture. Such as how Mettaton, a lot of the lighting is coming from behind him. So here and, you know, in areas all behind him and stuff, even in his hair and all that stuff, is very bright up, but there's also a light source coming from in front of him as well. Otherwise, he'd just be a silhouette. And it's kind of coming in from this direction, but again, it's not flat towards the picture. It's kind of like past the screen. So this part of him is all lit up. So yeah, even though you don't see that light source, it's still there. And alright, so now that I have the color of the background that I want, even though I'm not putting any detail, again, I'm not worrying about detail, and I'm just going to put flat colors for behind the sketch. And being as I'm using yellow, and I think her outfit is like a bluish purple, because it's yellow, I'm actually going to use more of a paler purple for Toriel's dress. I'm so sorry if these are wrong. So this would more fit in, like, say, a color tutorial, but the reason why I'm using more of a pale purple against yellow is because purple and yellow are complementary colors. And if I use a very vibrant purple, it's gonna just be like explosion in the eyes of purple. And it's not influenced at all by the yellow around the picture. So essentially, it doesn't seem to fit in the palette. See, if I did this purple, yeah, but if it's like deep, then that color isn't influenced by the yellow at all, which doesn't fit as well as, say, if I use a paler purple. And the reason why I go paler, excuse me, is because the reason why I use paler is because, being as they are complementary colors, they naturally cancel each other out. When you add a complementary color to its opposite, it takes away color of it and it makes it more pale. And so essentially using a paler purple, it fits more. Same thing goes with blue, not quite to the extent, because they're not complementary colors, but there's still purple in the blue that I'm using. So you still don't want a super vibrant blue. I think these are the colors of Toriel. I guess people will tell me if it's wrong. And white is super reflective, same thing with black. And because of that, I'm not going to use white at all. In fact, I rarely ever use white ever, and I don't usually suggest using it. Same thing goes with black. In fact, even my Metaton picture, it's very obvious that he's black and pink, but this is pretty much the farthest I go down for as color goes. Like, it never touches black, and the same pretty much goes for white. And if I ever do use white in a picture, it's usually just for like little details, and only if it's like really close. And being as she is white, and she's already pretty close to white, I probably will use it eventually. But I'm gonna keep her as yellow. I start with the in-between color, and then I add shading, and then I add lighting. I know some people start with the darkest color, and they build up with lighting and different layers of light. But I don't. I start in the middle, and or in between, the in-between color, and I go both ways. Alright, so I have that. I'm gonna give her blue eyes. I don't know if she has blue eyes or not, but I'm going to, because I think it's cute. Alright, so those are the flat colors. Okay, so now that I got the flat colors down, this is where I am going to make a new layer, and I'm going to put it above the sketch. And this is where I'm going to put basic lighting and shading, or shadows and stuff. And I'm not going to really worry about detail too much. So, again, because the color palette is yellow, when I do shading, I don't just go straight down, and I don't go this way. In fact, because there's a lot of orange in this yellow, when I go down, I'm going to add a little bit of orange in it. And here's why. This is a bit too pale, but that looks nice as a shadow, to me, or at least my eyes. But if I use the same color and just go down without adding any red or orange, it's this like gross mustard color, and it's not the same yellow. It doesn't match the color palette of the piece. So adding red, making it more orange to the shadows, actually look better and match more to the piece. Alright, hurry up. Okay, so I'm just gonna lightly put in some shadows and stuff. So I'm not really worrying too much about detail or trying to be clean, and I'm totally going over the lines, which is totally fine because it's just all going to be colored over anyways. And remember, the lighting's coming from this direction, so all this is going to be lit up pretty much. I'm also fine with this color right here. I actually think that looks really nice. Because again, color all influences color, even if they don't essentially mix together. Really, all color mixes if they're the right color purple and like the right color yellow, even if they are complementary. Such as in my Peridot picture, where I use pink and green, which basically is the same thing as using red and green, which are complementary colors. And so when you mix them together, they make brown, but they can blend together if you do it right. Same thing goes for purple with this. And so the background, another reason why I made the background first before I started doing something like this is because the background can be used for shading and blending into the background without it disappearing into the background. And sometimes you want it to disappear in the background, which is nice. So I'm gonna add some more orange. I'm actually gonna add a little bit more and make it more brighter. Bright means bright. As far as the upper right corner, upper left corner is lighter, and then left is pale, right is more saturated. Alright, so I'm actually going to stop here for part 1 of the video because it's already really long. So you could click the next video here, and I will continue to explain and finish the picture all the way till it's done. And I hope to see you in the next video. So yeah, bye!